What is up, Wizards fans? Welcome into another Department of Hoops postgame show. I'm Matt. He's DJ. The Wizards lose 139 to San Antonio. They were competitive, and at times actually they weren't competitive, but they didn't give up and they got back in the game. We'll get into it. I think really like that third quarter was probably the least fun I've had watching, especially the last 4 minutes of the third quarter were the least fun I've had watching the Wizards in probably the whole season. So that was just weird. And it was with a lot of vets out there, which I didn't like. And on the Wizards post game, they're celebrating how much the vets carried them tonight. And by vets, I'm talking specifically about Kuzma and Valanciunas and Kispert were out there. Poole obviously did his thing, and I know Kispert had a lot of points and Valanciunas had a double double, but they were also on the court when the team was getting cooked the most too. So I think you kind of can't leave out the full story of that. So we'll get into the whole thing here in a second. As always, we're brought to you by Stateside Vodka and their Surfside Hard Iced Teas. And we're also brought to you by, of course, BetOnline. If you were a degenerate and wanted to bet on this particular game, like the over-under, I don't know, DJ. I feel like somebody tried to tell him beforehand that the 225 as the over-under for this game was absolutely insane. So we could have made you all some money tonight, but that's okay. BetOnline is the most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest game odds to live in-game betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and ability to watch the games as they actually happen with the largest selection of odds and everything from football, NBA, college basketball, whatever you want to bet on, NHL, UFC, MMA. Head to BetOnline today and get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering, BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so DJ, just thoughts, initial reactions to what we saw out there tonight.
There was good. There was a lot of bad, and damn it all, there was some ugly, right?
Yep.
I mean, but I'll say this: that it was one of those heart pounding games, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was you saw them go down pretty rough early, right? You took a couple punches, you got back into it for a respectable first quarter, which was 31-32, and then you even win the second quarter. 36-35, right? You start seeing, Val get into the mix, like we kind of talked about in the pregame, and getting, kind of showing Sar like, hey, this is how you bully somebody who you look like you're stronger than. And then, damn it all, that third quarter. All right, that third quarter just, you go to the highs of, man, like this is what I'm talking about. This is good basketball. Seeing the Wizards, and then you're just that third quarter is like, damn it. Let me have some of those spritzers you're talking about, right? Let me chug a few of those down, and then the fourth quarter they take out Wemby, and you're like, okay, that's probably game, but no, you saw this team continue to fight, and man, that's why I say this game, if I were to give it anything, right, it was exciting, if nothing else.
It felt like there was a graphic at some point Monumental put up that they had scored like 19 to outscored the Wizards 19-2 on second chance points or points off turnovers, excuse me. And it felt like more than that, especially in that stretch, like that late third quarter. It felt like all 19 of those came like in that 4-minute window, basically, because they were getting runouts. They were taking like bad contested shots that were leading to fast breaks for the Spurs. And it just felt like they converted on like every single one of those plays. And it's just hard to win a close basketball game when you're relatively, less talented than the team you're playing against. Like you have to play perfect basketball, and they have too many of these stretches where it's just things snowball for them and a team goes on a 14-0 run or whatever. And they're just not a team that's equipped to return the favor. Like maybe Jordan Poole can go on a heater, and you get a Keyshawn. Sorry, I was another thing that Spurs broadcast kept calling him, or the Spurs in-game announcer kept calling him Keyshawn George, and now that's in my brain. Also, people got to be able to say Wembanyama at some point. We should be able to know his name, considering how good he is. Heard that messed up a couple times tonight too, so that was a little wild. But anyway, you just can't afford to give up so many free points, and you're a team that's not going to get a lot of free points, so you're at a significant disadvantage anytime you did that. And I just want to see if I can quickly pull that up. Turnovers in general, the Wizards had only had 18, but the Spurs had 9. So, right, like that's that's the difference in the game right there. If you let them convert on almost every one of those turnovers, like you have to be so much better than them to have a thing. It was like for a while, like everybody said, like you had to be 10 points better than Duke to play them in Cameron Indoor because the refs were going to give you 10 points. Like that's how it is for the Wizards. Like you have to win those turnover battles and things like that. And they did everything else pretty well. Like as a team, if you shoot 41% from three, like you're going to expect to win a good amount of games. They had 48 rebounds. Like that's pretty good. Like the Spurs shot 41% from three and had 51 rebounds, but like that's relatively a wash. So it's just really the turnovers are the difference for me tonight.
Yeah, I mean, turnovers, huge thing. And, just defense, to me as a whole, I think, especially that third quarter, right? There was, well, first of all, from beginning to end, let's just, defense on Wemby was just, and I feel like I kind of jinxed it, right? In the pregame show, I said, I don't really care how much Wemby scores. I want to see Sar, go at
This is
him.
all
And,
your fault.
man, yeah, it is. It's completely my fault because damn it all, Wemby must have heard me through the spirit realm and went for 50.
He wouldn't have been good otherwise. I mean, he's just not that good a player. So you inspired him.
And then, not without me, pulling some strings there. No. It's just absolutely kind of ridiculous that, and this is kind of my gripe with Sar. So let me kind of get my thoughts straight here. Is that with Sar is that you can see the potential when he's guarding a smaller guard or when he's guarding somebody like faster, twitchier, like some of these, like whether it's a Jason Tatum or those archetypes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you get in front of Wemby, and I mean, let's face it. I mean, Wemby's a generational talent, and even standing next to Sar made him look kind of small in some facets. But get up in his face. Make him drive to the basket. I mean, at least from a physics standpoint, the point from when the ball has to be dribbled from his large hands to the ground, right, is probably going to take a little bit longer than somebody else's. So make him drive to the basket and get fancy, right? Which he did a few times. But if I'm Sar and I have that capability and kind of like that wingspan to contest, Wemby, then why am I not doing that? So I think the defense for me on Wemby was a little lax, and then you have Big V come in and kind of show you how to get physical with him. But then even Big V, man, they started targeting him on some of these.
Like, he couldn't do anything away from the rim, like anything away from the hoop. Like that's the challenge with him.
Yeah. So just those sorts of things right there are some of the things that kind of like got to me. Do we have a cat sighting?
Yeah, I'm on like second floor balcony here for everybody wondering, in a loft, and the cat is literally hanging over the edge. So there's always something. He's literally trying to throw himself down to the second floor here just because of how disappointed he is by that Wizards loss, I think.
Well, we have a mascot for DOH, so
yeah, that's right. Exactly right. It's going to be Jordan Poole, fear the cat kind of situation here. So,
but continuing on Sar here, right? So Sar again, you saw great moments from him, right? You saw where he did get physical, and the irony about it is that Sar isn't that physical, right? We wanted Sar to be super physical, right? We want him to kind of bulk up. For all intents and purposes, he looks bigger than Wemby on the court, right? You don't really get any skinnier. And you saw a couple of times where, you saw a couple of times where Sar just said, "Wait a minute, like I am bigger than you. I'm gonna like take you to the post and do a couple of things," which he did. And then there was the dunk we were looking for came from the other Frenchman. It didn't come from Bilal, which I'm sure we'll get into. But it came from Sar, and that was, to me, that was just absolutely like that's what you need to do, because I think he went 0 for 5 from 3. He's got to work on that shot. That wasn't cutting it. He should have been working some magic in the paint. That's what I would have taken advantage. When part of your game isn't working, right, you tend to want to favor the other.
You're just letting them off the hook if you shoot a bunch of threes, if you're him. And if you got somebody like Wembanyama that's on a heater, like the best thing you can do is make him work on the other end. And guys like in the NBA that are that good like him are just going to have those kinds of nights, and you can force him into shooting a bunch of threes. Now, granted, there were too many of them were open, so I don't think that's what they wanted, but you would rather have him shoot 28 feet away from the basket. And, so that's not the worst thing in the world, but if he beats you with jumpers, but make him work, right? Like Valanciunas made him work around the rim a little bit, but he was just no resistance anywhere, beyond 10 feet from the hoop on the other end. So I think there's some challenges there. But if you're sorry, yeah, like it's a bailout every time you take a couple of the threes he took too. Like, all right, 2 or 3 of them maybe were in rhythm, but then another 2, maybe 3 were just not great. I guess he was 0 for 5, so it felt like more than that. Maybe there were a couple long twos in there, but he had 12 points tonight, 2 rebounds. That's just not good enough. It just really isn't. And they rebounded well, like overall. It was good team rebounding. I thought Valanciunas obviously had the 13, and the 5 offensive rebounds were great. Like I think that was a real plus from him, and that actually kind of helped him get a couple of his buckets and get a couple other guys' buckets. So he is what he is. He's limited on one end of the floor. I think he helps their offense, and he and Kispert out there together. I think that's sort of you can't like sag off of Kispert enough to then double down on Valanciunas. So I think those two on the same side of the court seems to work for them. And I think Valanciunas and Poole have pretty good chemistry too. We talked about on the pregame, like those 3 together, they have good offensive chemistry, but then the defense suffers. And that's, I think, what we saw a little bit during that stretch. I have no complaints about Poole overall tonight, though. He's actually trying to be active and get a couple deflections. He had 2 steals again tonight. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you're not going to be good defensively, at least kind of cause some havoc. And I'm not saying he's been bad. It's just he's never going to be like a plus overall defender, I don't think. But he was 15 to 22 from the field tonight, 6 of 9 from 3, 6 of 6 from the free throw line, which was great. Had the 6 assists, 3 turnovers. A 2 to 1 assist to turnover ratio from him, I think, is the best you're going to hope for. So 42 overall points. That was great. The other veteran guy here, and this is going to be continually the elephant in the room, I think, was Kyle Kuzma. 4 of 9, 2 of 6 from 3. Just 2 of the threes were so atrocious that I wanted to rip my hair out. There was one like step back 3 where he basically stepped back into a worse shot and then took it anyway. He did come immediately right back down the floor in the third quarter and hit a 3 immediately after it, but it was just maddening to watch. He had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, but just the 6 turnovers. And we talked about, the turnovers in this game. If it's a 3 turnover game from him, maybe you win this game. And it's just, if you were the veteran leader of the team that you claim to be, like you have to be better. You have to be smarter. You have to make better decisions. And like it's 6 pure turnovers, but some of the shot selection stuff, they led to some of those run outs and things like that. So it realistically created some free, easy points for the Spurs on top of just the 6 turnovers. So I don't know what you do with Kuzma at this point, but he just has to be better for them to be competitive. And maybe they're okay with him not being, because if he was better, you probably win this game. And if you're trying to tank, maybe that's not what you want.
Yeah, it's something I kind of noticed is that, Greg, let's talk about JP, right? With your first point. JP, points aside, he wasn't giving up. And that to me, that leadership showed, right, where you saw him talking to guys, trying to ramp it up. Like, it doesn't matter if Wemby's gone. Like, we still have a chance in this game, which, look, 7 minutes in the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden you go on a huge run. Now, what you get as low as, 5, right? Mm-hmm. Only down by 5. And you see JP essentially take over, right? He's doing the best he can there. So, this is kind of what we expect from JP, right? Maybe not necessarily 42 a night. You would hope that's not what he has to do, right? But you saw some leadership there. One of the things I did notice is, with Kyle, right, with Kuzma, is that, him coming down and then him chucking that 3, and then you do see kind of Poole on the side, like, that wasn't it, right? But we talked about that third quarter and the downfall. The comeback came when they took Kuz off, and he sat on the. I don't think I saw him in the entire fourth quarter.
He definitely he definitely didn't play the last like 5 or 6 minutes of the game definitively. I can't remember if he came in for a short stretch before that, but someone tweeted me he was noticeably. There was a huddle where Kuzma was sitting down and off to the side. And if this was body language doctors that we were last year with Poole, like everybody would be destroying him right now. And I think the Wizards fan base overall is down on him enough that maybe it's not worth piling on. But yeah, like to your point, like they clearly moved away from him in an attempt to win this game. And hopefully that sends him a message. Like the way you're playing is just not going to get it done.
Well, Wizards fans, at this point in time, I think we should be like masters of body language, right? We've seen where
Seen
Beal
it
for
all.
years, right? We've seen him on the side, and it's like, hey, you can't really fool us with your body language, right? We're masters at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I just it sucks because I'm such a big fan of Kuz, and I think we talked about it in the pregame, just kind of like the excitement of what he was showing us, right, in the Beal KP time to the leadership afterwards, and even last year, right, he had some pretty amazing games, and it just seems as though this year the step forward with him and JP, there doesn't seem to be anything there as far as the chemistry or both of them being leaders and stepping up. It seems though JP took that step. You can clearly see that,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think we're seeing much from Kuz at this point, and hey,
Who are the
sucks.
guys he's meshed with really well on this particular group and has good chemistry with? Like there was I thought he and Denny played well together historically. I don't Denny fans didn't think that way, but there was definitely a stretch too where in the limited minutes they played Denny, Rui, and Kuzma together. I thought they were really good,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
they never did that as much as anyone wanted. But like Poole right now clearly has some chemistry, especially, with Valanciunas, I think, in that two-man game. Like they don't ever do the two-man situation with Kuzma and Poole for whatever reason. And it's just like, who is Kuzma's guy? Like, who does he work well with on the court right now? I mean, maybe you're just saying he's been so bad overall that, there's really no one he's meshed particularly well with, but it's just, you got to start to figure that out, like whatever it is. And I get it that they're tanking at the end of the day. It's not that big of a problem, but uh, it- like, it just at some point here, like we got to start having some answers to these questions, or you need to move away sooner rather than later. Because I just think it's going to start to cause some overall greater issues with the team.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, right, I think one of the key components for growth for a young team is chemistry, right, and
Mhm.
positivity, right, throughout the season, right. Especially, look, we're not expected to win many games this year. We all know that. So
That's
what
right.
you need are those vets to pull you through the hard times. We've already done it, and I mean,
Mhm.
you would think like no better vets than two vets who are have already won championships someplace else, so they know what it takes, right. But kind of getting back to the good, like a lot of the really good. I mean, this was just for me. This was an exciting game just to see the grit and the fight coming back, and to I think this is also a testament to Coach Keefe, where it's like, hey, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go with the best lineup that's going to get us back into this game, right? Put whoever out there, and that's essentially what he did, right? I mean, you saw some lineups in there letting JP take the charge, and it's
Mhm.
like, hey, let's get these guys together, right? I did not see who am I thinking of? Sorry. I did not see Kispert like show up early, but then
Yeah,
later on in the game you
he picked
started
it
to
up.
see him rev up. Yep.
I agree.
Um, again, Sar didn't have the best game, but you saw flashes in the pan, right? You saw bits and pieces where after, they subbed him out for JV. JV was like, hey, this is how you come in and you put a body on something, you do a couple of what did Sar do? As soon as Sar checked back in,
Mhm.
right, he started mimicking JV just a little bit, right? Again, you'd like to see him, do better on the boards, but you know, um, it's like, hey, to me, I'm looking at this. I mean, we still out rebounded that squad. I mean, JV clearly had the majority of them, but you
Mhm.
had Kolabali. He wasn't shooting as much as you'd like to, but at least he caught 8 boards. Bub 5, 13. So I mean, there's a couple good things in here, but overall, it's like you'd like to see the fight and the grit coming back into the game. And, it doesn't matter who has the hot hand, who doesn't. Like, we're all going to contribute in some way, form, or fashion.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, you don't lose this game by a lot. And there were situations where I thought it could have turned into a total blowout if they let it. And teams in the NBA are going to make runs, so I thought they responded well. And honestly, like it's just hard to weather the storm when somebody goes off the way Wembanyama went off. Like 8 of 16 from three from him is honestly incredible. And it felt like he was kind of everywhere defensively too. So uh, just more power to him. And honestly, they were kind of balanced otherwise. Like Vassell had 17 points in 14 minutes. It was on 5 of 14 shooting, but 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Those were big free throws from him. Uh, Julian Champagny was solid. Harrison Barnes was fine, I guess. They were both okay. Castle was relatively solid enough for them. Had the 5 assists. I think that helped. A big block in there somewhere, and Chris Paul just kind of organized everybody. Had the 11 assists, and Keldon Johnson had a couple big baskets late. Like, they were pretty well spread out. If everyone else was okay, but it was basically just like, well, if Wembanyama can beat us by himself, and he did, like, kudos to him, and that's going to happen sometimes. And Poole did his best to sort of match that with the 42, but just not they weren't quite locked down enough. I don't know, like protecting the ball enough to overcome that. Just one thing in the chat here, it never makes no sense. Says, does anyone know if there's anything mechanical that needs to be fixed on Sarr's jump shot? Some misses look good and others look like WTF. For me, it's fluidity. It needs to be one solid motion when he catches the ball, especially like a rhythm jumper, and just goes up with it. It looks sort of like one actual fluid motion. So I think this is a thing that happens a lot when guys have their jump shots retooled, is in specific situations, they can catch, be set, and go up with it in one sort of direct motion. For him, I think sometimes it's a little like herky jerky, and it looks like you can see him kind of mentally going through the steps he needs to do to take a jump shot. So I think that's a thing that's just going to take time and comfort level. I don't feel like he has the greatest touch overall. So I do think he's probably capped over time in terms of how good a jump shot he's going to be able to have. But do I think he can get the 36, 37% from three? Yeah, like I think that's a reasonable thing. He's just going to have to rep it out and go with it. Sometimes the ball comes kind of weirdly off the side of his hand, I think a little bit too, but it's not like broken. I mean, like I think for him, it's just like I said, those reps. Sam Hershey said, I didn't mind Bilal not shooting, given his teammates were shooting well. He didn't feel the need to force a shot or to make a play that wasn't there. And then Sarr has the handles to drive more and not settle for threes. I agree that should be the thing for Sarr is attacking mismatches when he gets them. I mind the Bilal thing selfishly because I'm not interested in seeing 6 back downs in a row from Valanciunas while Bilal just kind of stands opposite corner. But that's a me thing from a basketball perspective. Like, some nights he's going to get more looks than others. I think that was clearly a part of the scouting report for the Spurs, was to not let him get going either too. So I don't know. How do you feel about Bilal's involvement overall there, DJ?
Yeah, I mean, right, we talked about the progression into the second year, right? I understand kind of defaulting to as the hot hand, but especially in that third quarter where it's getting kind of out of hand, right? I think there was a stretch where JP wasn't even in the game, right? Because I think he had hurt his ankle based off of that kind of like that closing on the 3-pointer shot that he hit from I can't remember who fouled him, but that's kind of where you'd like to see Bilal try to be a little bit aggressive, right? Get to some of his spots and take some of his shots. So, I can, I know it's a cop out, but I can kind of halfway agree here where it's like, okay, well, you want it to be within the flow of the game, but you also got to understand, like, hey, the expectation for you on your second year, right? We need you to kind of go get us a bucket, and make some magic happen there. So, but yeah, not his most aggressive game, and not kind of what we've been used to seeing for the past month and some change.
Yep.
And as far as Sarr is concerned too, right? As far as that jump shot, I completely agree with you. That jump shot, it looks like it's almost like you've never shot a jump shot before, right? Those guys, and you go to the YMCA or you go to your LA Fitness or whatever, and you just see like that old guy just kind of like shoot the shot super slow and it's kind of set foot shot. So it kind of gives off those sorts of vibes, but you would want him to have just a more smoother jump shot than that, and preferably something quicker too, because it just looks like it's just like if there was a 3-part story to a jump shot, it'd be his.
And I think that's what it is, though. Someone is teaching him how they want him to shoot the ball. And you can see the mental progression of like, I catch here, I dip here, I go up here. Like, that's sort of what it looks like to me, where there are sometimes where he'll catch it and just can't fire, or other times it's a one dribble, okay, boom. And that's That's just going to take time. It just is what it is. Like it's somebody that has like a really good golf coach that teaches them a golf swing from scratch, and you're like, oh, they're doing the right things. But to your point, it's sort of broken into steps still. Once that sort of coalesces into a jump shot instead of pieces of a jump shot, I think he'll be a lot better overall. DJ, I don't really have a lot else on this game. I mean, just there were some highs and they were competitive. So good tank game. Saw a few things from a few of the rookies. Maybe let's quickly, I guess, touch on Bub Carrington. We haven't mentioned him or Keyshawn much tonight. What did you think about the two of them overall?
Sorry, I'm laughing at Joe Swams. Bub Carrington. Like I said, I thought Bub did well outside. When I say well, I like the aggressiveness from Bub. Right, he was guarding CP3, and that's one of the things you just love about Bub, man. He doesn't care who he's going. You got a future Hall of Famer right in front of you, and you see him talking. It does not matter. Again, you're from where you're from. I'm from where I'm from. Like, let's talk about it. It doesn't matter, right? And you heard it from a couple of other vets from previous games where they talk about some of these young guys now. They're not scared of the moment, and you obviously wouldn't have liked to see him have 6 turnovers, right? I mean,
that's the big thing. Yeah, just looks.
But then also, you look sped up. But again, he's a rookie, and you can kind of expect that to happen from a rookie, right? He's going to have those games. But 13 points. Forgot how many rebounds he has. How many rebounds did he have? 5 rebounds, 5 assists in 29 minutes, 5-11 from the field. Didn't shoot the greatest from 3, but I mean,
it was fine.
Really did, so it's fine. I mean, again, you come in, you're doing well with the minutes that you're given, and that's really all that we can ask for, right? So I love that. And who was the second person that you asked about?
Keyshawn.
It was kind of weird because watching Keyshawn, it was kind of like it almost felt like he got most of his shots kind of towards the end of the game when they started making that slight run, and he kind of added himself in there, but it just kind of seemed like it was a little bit all over the place, 2 for 6 from 3. So, I mean, not terrible, but it was kind of, when I'm looking at it, it's like, when did he score 12 points? Right.
Yeah, it was a little quiet.
It was a little quiet. And that's kind of, that's kind of but he played 32 minutes. Right. So,
although he had a couple moments tonight where I was like, oh, you could see it. There's a little flash of something here. Like he had one ball fake tonight. I was like, he is a more fluid mover now than I keep saying this every week. I'm impressed by that about him too. He just moves like a guy who's going to be a very good NBA player.
You're talking about the one. This is the only play that I remember because everything else seemed like a blur for him that game. But it was when it was a ball fake, I believe, on Wemby. A ball fake on Wemby, right? And then he just it was such a smooth lay to the basket, like a smooth kind of little Euro, and then right to the basket. And that was a really nice play by him. So no, a little bit forgettable, but definitely had some good moments. But again, I mean, look, all the rookies scored in double figures tonight. So
they all played for all of them. Yeah.
The learning experience all played a contributing factor in some sort of way to this comeback. And last couple things, I'm sorry, right? The dunk, we talked about that earlier. Love that. I love the fact that he got that block on Wemby.
Yep.
That was to me like a statement block. Like, look, man, you're not going to keep doing this to me all night. But he ended up doing, that to him all night. So I guess it didn't matter, but at least he tried.
It's an A for effort situation, I think. Yeah, we hustled, we competed. I say we, like I was out there. The Wizards hustled, they competed. We'll take that. More good than bad. Perfect tank, right? Like saw some good things, and they lost the game, and that's okay. And I heard like a VJ Edgecombe had a better game tonight, so there's some other guys cooking from a draft perspective. So I think we've got a lot to be excited about, for this year's draft too. Just for anybody interested, the Wizards' next game is against the Atlanta Hawks on Friday. I believe it's at 7:30 p.m. in Atlanta. So this is a get-right game for the Wizards. We love playing the Hawks, apparently, but as Drew and Chris pointed out on the broadcast, it is very hard to beat an NBA team 3 times in a row. So I think the deck is probably stacked against them pulling that one off. It's the in-season tournament. It'd be hilarious to go out and see the Wizards somehow go on a heater for a week and win the in-season tournament. Don't expect that to happen, but it would be funny. So yeah, I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll keep you posted on that on Friday, and we'll go from there. DJ, any last things here?
Like I said, exciting game. Proud of the boys, and let's go out and put in some heart and effort into to this tournament.
I love it. Sounds good to me. All right, everybody, you know the drill. Please hit that like button for us on YouTube. I know it's annoying when every podcast you listen to asks you to do that shit over and over again. There's a reason we all do that. It does help people find the show. If you are watching this, please actually hit subscribe. We're trying to get this thing over 1,000 followers. That's like your first big milestone as a YouTube channel to become more discoverable. So we always appreciate that. For the folks in the chat here, which is essentially, it never makes no sense, Sam and Joe, thank you guys for hanging with us. Ite on the board here too. I didn't see him early at the beginning there. It just didn't show up in my feed. So appreciate you guys all tuning in with us and staying up late. We'll see how it goes on Friday. Have a good rest of your week until then. And DJ, thank you as always for the time. If you haven't checked out the Chocolate City Hoops podcast, make sure to do that. DJ does an amazing job. Has the fellas from State of the Wizards on here as the most recent episode. And it was great. Those guys are super cool. So always fun to watch. And yeah, I don't know. We'll check y'all next time. Presented by betonline.ag. All right, peace.